Hi, everyone. This is Mark Cunningham, and we are back with another episode of Over-Caffeinated. As always, we have Beacon CEO Justin Owen here, and we have a very special guest outside of him, the representative from Tennessee's 2nd District, former mayor of Knox County, Crystal Burger aficionado, and the best Twitter personality in the United States Congress, I think, Representative Tim Burchett. Welcome.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
So we heard that you don't drink coffee, and you're more of a soda guy. So instead of our overcap, we're going to be talking about soda. So what is your favorite soda? I got the Dr. Pepper cream soda here, which was fantastic.
Well, yeah.
Where do you get your caffeine from?
Well, my wife and daughter drink Dr. Peppers. When I married my wife, she drinks coffee a lot. And so I thought, well, she gets up really early in the morning, 5:30 or so, and starts her day off with a cup of coffee. So I thought, well, I'll just start drinking coffee. And, dadgummit, we'll start off today, pray a little, talk a little. What I found out was at 5:30 in the morning, she didn't want anything to do with me. So now I've got this new habit I got to kick with this dadgum coffee. So I'm kind of off of it, and I'm back on it, and kind of off on it. It's kind of like a monkey on my back, though. It's
I like a drug problem, just coffee.
I like a little coffee with my cream and sugar, basically.
What about you, Justin? What are you drinking right now?
I've got my Dr. Pepper. I'm about to crack it right now. That's my go-to. Though my favorite's probably cream soda. I don't get it very often, but it's a good drink.
Yeah, don't look at the calorie information. It's not worth it.
I'm not a big cream soda fan. Y'all ever come to Knoxville, I'll take you to Ball Market, and they've got an excellent Storm and Norman's iced tea, and they mix it with lemonade, the Arnold Palmer. I think we call it Arnold Schwarzkopf there, but,
Knoxville also they have the White Horse cream ale, the cream beer, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Mark drinks weird beers though, so you can't take too much beer advice from
I'm
him.
a teetotaler, so I don't drink any beer. But
no. So here's the real thing: is that you're competing directly. We had former or current Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs on before, so we're going to see who has more views. I think you have to be 31,000 views on this, and he has the advantage of talking about MacGruber, which is tough because you don't get that advantage in movies. But
no, he's he's got the movie credits, but I have the incredible good looks and intelligence.
Yep, that's right. So let's talk first. One of the biggest news stories that there was kind of what happened in Virginia, but maybe to a lesser extent, New Jersey, where you saw a surprise across there. You have a Republican governor now in Virginia, almost one in New Jersey, which was almost more surprising. And really across the state, Republicans did much better than expected. So I want to hear from both of you, and Representative Burchett, we'll start with you. What are your takeaways? Do you think Republicans are reading too much into this, or do you think it was a real message that was sent?
I think it's a message, but it's the new. And please call me Tim. Everybody, these guys up here will call you Congressman, some custodian, and I'll tell him. I said, "You guys are the only ones up here doing any work." I'm in Congress. I ain't hit a lick since I've been up here, so it's Tim. But I think it's an indicator. I don't think, but politics is just a split second or a microcosm of what's going on in the world, and I think it changes, and a few hours, a different news cycle. I mean, that's a lifetime in politics, and these guys that are always thumping their chests, and gals, and picking out the curtains in the speaker's office, they need to hold on. And I think Kevin McCarthy's got it right. He says, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint, and we have got to. That's an indicator of what's going on. We need to figure out what people are frustrated about, seize upon it, and correct it. Or try to make the corrections. They're not going to allow us to, because the Democrat Party is just so far off to the left. They've left any resemblance of the Democrat Party of my grandfather, or, Reagan was in the Democrat Party, and he said I didn't leave the Democrat Party, they left me. And you're seeing a lot of that too with a lot of labor people right now, Teamsters and other folks. Maybe not the folks in DC, the leadership, but the rank and file folks that actually work for a living. They see it. They're not into all this woke stuff. They love their country. They love God. They might drink a little beer, but they'll be in church on Sunday. They'll be out hunting in the fields with you, or fishing somewhere out on the lake on the weekends, and that's, I think they've just turned their back on them.
Yeah, maybe in church hungover, but they're still there, so that you're happy.
Yeah. Well,
so Justin, what about you? Do you think the Republicans are maybe overreacting to say, "Oh, we're going to sweep everything," or do you think it really is a sign?
Well, it depends on what they do. If they say don't go vote because it's not worth it, then you're going to see things of Georgia come back rather than Virginia. Although parents are upset right now. They're irate about what has happened over the last 2 years with COVID, with their kids, with the school shutdowns, and then virtual schooling, and then masks and vaccines. And so I think that whoever listens to the people who are mad, parents, people who are frustrated about job opportunities in the economy, gas prices, inflation, if you listen to those people, then you're going to win. But if you create this elitist attitude that we know best, they just need to sit in the corner and shut up, then I think you're going to lose. So I think it really depends on who actually listens to what people's needs are.
Well, you brought me right to the next question about inflation. It seems to be kind of something that both political parties are throwing at each other. I mean, the Democrats kind of pretended it didn't exist. Now they know it exists, but they're maybe not taking it as seriously as possible. But I don't think many people understand what inflation is or how it happens. And it might not be, as partisan as we make it sound. So I guess my question is, why is this such a big deal? What's happening with inflation, and who's to blame for it? So Tim, we'll start with you.
Well, because it hits us the hardest. I mean, it hits working people the hardest. You look at gas prices, some bureaucrat, I don't know, it might have been somebody in the White House, I can't remember, there's been so many blunders as of late, but they said that, it really doesn't affect working people, it just affects the rich people. And heck no, I mean, they just put another nickel on a can of beer or whatever, they just pass it on to us. And the reality is that when the gas prices go up, it hurts working people. They're having to fill up twice a week. It costs them a few $100s extra. The guy that, maybe a plumber or something like that. I mean, that's money right out of his pocket. And it's a disaster, and it starts at the top. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I've been up here so long. I've only been up here 3 years, but I've been in political office most of my life, as you stated earlier, that I'm not so sure some of this isn't by design. You've heard them say in testimony that, we need to drive the price of gas up. We need to make it difficult. So we'll drive people towards electric vehicles. But the other end of that is we don't have an electrical grid that could, if we turn the switch tomorrow and said, all right, 70% of the people are going to be driving electric vehicles. We don't have the electric grid to do it. We can't put a new nuclear plant online because the bureaucrats have stifled everything. And the other countries are not following those rules, and yet we continue to tie our hands. So, I mean, it's all a part of a bigger plan, I think, to push us towards a socialist form of government. And I mean, you're seeing it, it's taught in our schools, it's undermining everything. It was very telling to me. I don't care if you hate Trump or not, it doesn't really matter. But when President Trump said America will never be a socialist nation at the State of the Union address, and over half the United States Congress did not applaud that. That was very telling. That should have been the outrage of it was Pelosi tearing up the speech, all this theatrics and stuff that really didn't matter to anything. But the reality was that typified, I think, what it is to be a Democrat in this country today. And the country better wake up, and the Republicans better get some guts and do something about it and have a plan and stick to it, or we're going to lose our country. It will completely become unraveled if we don't do something in the next few years.
Well, and they're willing to put people through pain to get their ideological agenda. Like you said, with energy and environmental issues, they're willing to make people suffer and pay and lose their jobs and suffer all the hardships to get to achieve this vision that they have for what America should be, when that's not at all what America was founded on, or in any way the direction we should be headed.
Yep, I agree.
And the Democrats just did a post-mortem today, basically the 2020 election, because they thought they were going to do much better. And they said the biggest issue with Hispanic voters was the idea that the Democrats are too close to socialism, and they didn't like their COVID policy. So when you look at some of the numbers, I mean, just understanding numbers, they're going to have to change that, because they're associating with socialism right now, and that's not a good thing to be associated with.
Yeah, many Hispanics have fled socialism, or their family have fled socialism because they know it doesn't work. That's why they're here. And so we need to
right. I represent 7 counties. I grew up in Knox County, but Claiborne County, I was there yesterday, and there's a Hispanic fellow who came here legally, and he started a donut shop. It's called MAGA Donuts, MAGA Donuts. And he's about as conservative as anybody you've ever seen. And that's what he said. He said, we fled all that in Central America. And that's why we came to America for. And we did it legally. They did it the right way. But you'll never hear about him on the news. But the truth is that that's a growing number. And the Democrats cannot shovel out enough free services to try to rein those folks in. And they're just not doing it, because they have gotten a bite of capitalism, and they like it, and they don't want to go back to where they came from.
That's right. And despite the media, it's not just Cubans. They talk about Guatemalans. They talk about people from Venezuela. I mean, everywhere in Central America that people have come from. Again, they don't want socialism. So, Justin, let's start with you here. This is a big issue in Tennessee right now is the idea of redistricting. And some people are going to say in gerrymandering. It's a partisan, practice that happens depending on who's in charge of the state. What is your general thought about this? I mean, there is some, bipartisan consensus. This isn't great the way we do it now. Are you okay with the way we do redistricting, or do you think that something needs to change?
Well, just like everything else, elections have consequences. And when you elect people to make decisions, including on redistricting, then that's what you live with. It's like the Supreme Court. Oh, well, we need to change how we put people on the Supreme Court because we don't like who's in charge when someone passes away or retires from the court. That's the reality that we face. And, for 150 years, the Democrats were in charge of our state and they drew the district lines. And you didn't hear these claims of, oh, we need these nonpartisan, bureaucrats to make these decisions so that there's not gerrymandering. The reality is whoever's in charge gets to make that decision. They always have, and they should, because that's what voters elected them to do. Yes, there are times where we've seen crazy. I mean, the whole gerrymandering came out about from that, the crazy look of a map. But there's also limits on population. Obviously, there's limits on minority districts. There's limits on breaking up counties. It's a very complicated process. This notion that you can just create a bunch of boxes is just not realistic. And so it's just interesting to me that the people who were in charge for so long are no longer in charge, and they're the ones screaming the loudest about needing someone else to draw the districts because they're not getting to draw them anymore.
Yeah, we're not hearing as much about Illinois and all these to get rid of every Republican in Illinois right now, but you're hearing a lot about Tennessee. So Representative Burchett, what about you? What are your thoughts on this? And obviously you were in the state legislature too.
Yeah.
Tell me about what your general thoughts are.
Well, I've gone through redistricting. I've been sued in federal court, and it was thrown out by a Democrat judge, actually, when they accused us of something. It didn't happen, and the judge no-suited. He just said, "This is ridiculous." They threw the thing out. And Justin is correct in that it is a political process. In the past, the courts have stated it is a political process. It's a process of the party. As long as you're not trying to discriminate against somebody or trying to keep somebody, because sometimes when they've redistricted in the past, when they could redistrict midterm, and there's people that would never have an election for a state senator. They would move it in Tennessee, it's a 4-year term, and every 2 years or so, they would switch it. And then literally they'd go through a series of 10 years where they didn't have a state senator election to vote in, because every time it'd get time, they'd move the line a little bit. And so they've tightened those kind of craziness up. And that was, the Democrats were in control when that happened. And now the Republicans are in control. It's because it's set by the state legislatures. And the states throughout the country have said, we're tired of this.
Oh, I think you hit me.
I think we got you on mute there.
I think I did. Yeah, they're tired of the liberal programs. They're tired of the liberal agenda. And in fact, you've seen across the country where, as in Tennessee, where the Republicans have a supermajority, and that's the case. And now they don't like it, and they want to change the rules. And and they own the media, so the media is harping that and is making it look. And it's just everything from having to show a voter ID, which is not a racist thought, because you have to show you have to show an ID to fly on an airplane, to go to you have to show an ID to deposit money if they don't know you. I mean, it's crazy.
To buy beer.
yeah. To buy beer. Exactly. And so it's just ridiculous. And the rules they're trying to pass now, they're trying to nationalize it. I mean, do you want Washington, D.C. in control of your local elections? And the answer to overwhelmingly to that is no.
Plus, they want like 91 Supreme Court justices.
Yeah. And the interesting thing too, we hear a lot of people from supporters across the state who go, "Oh, why don't we do what Georgia did? We need a voter ID, and we need all of these protections in elections." We did this 10 years ago, right? This is something that the legislature addressed long before it was controversial to do so. And you don't hear that in the news because it's not the flavor of the day with those who are outraged.
No, it's not.
So let's move on to a situation in the sports world that's gotten a lot of attention, which is former Jazz center Enes Kanter, who is now a center for the Boston Celtics. He's not a good player, but he's got a lot to say, and he has been probably the first person to really speak out against China, speak out against LeBron James, who apparently calls other people uneducated who don't realize that China has internment camps. But it's been a huge sports story because this is the first person who's really spoke out against the economic interest of the NBA, and he has been getting tons of press and a lot of great thoughts of the idea that, hey, you want to talk about social justice, LeBron, why don't you talk about what's happening in China? So what is your take on the whole situation, Representative Burchett? I mean, Enes Kanter has been all over the news, and he really has been kind of a freedom fighter, it seems like.
I agree. He has. I've spoke on the House floor about it in speeches. I just left a group out front that was protesting in favor of the Uyghurs. They're a group of Muslims in China that have been they're in concentration camps. They're being forced to eat pork. I mean, just things that you and I would, in this country, you'd be in federal court, you lose everything you got because the courts would take it from you, and rightfully so. China is a corrupt nation. There again, who we've got in the White House, you got Hunter Biden over there doing business with them, and possibly the president was receiving 10% of the cut from it, and so you've got a horrible situation. They've infiltrated every facet of our society. I had breakfast a couple of months ago with the former Secretary of State, and he told us that they've gotten down to the level of PTAs in some areas. I mean, you've got a Chinese communist spy allegedly sleeping with a member of our intelligence committee, the top tier committee, the committee that goes into what's called the SCIF. You can't take your cell phones out. Been in multiple meetings in there. I have the security clearance to do it, and I go in there, and you can't take your cell phone. You can't talk about it. Nothing. And Speaker Pelosi doesn't see anything wrong with that. And yet you've got this guy being demonized who's calling out the NBA for their utter greed, and it's just amazing to me. It is totally outrageous in the American public. But look. We want our pizzas in 30 minutes or less. That's about our attention span, and that's me included. And we could do so much better dealing with China. Who we've got in the White House now they're not worried about him. He's going to do like Obama. He'll make that line in the sand, and they'll step over it. He'll say, "Don't step over that line again," and they'll do it again, and they'll just keep doing it because they know they can get by with it. And this guy's a hero. They'll probably chastise him and run him out. But he should be a hero, and that guy whose name won't be mentioned, who kneeling, who doesn't like law enforcement in this country, they make that guy a hero.
Well, we're glad you mentioned the congressman that's full of hot air too, so that was good. So Justin, on your perspective, I mean, obviously you're a UK fan, which is where Enes Kanter didn't play, but went. I mean, are you excited to actually see somebody speaking up on this because it's not usual in the professional sports world?
Well, it's refreshing. And like the left has actually intentionally used sports figures to get to younger people and to really spread their message and their agenda. And so for someone to stand up against that has to be incredibly hard. It's almost like in Hollywood, you're an albino deer. If you stand up and, fight, you're going to be a target. And so for somebody to do it, it's very refreshing. It's great to see. I'm so sick of hearing about LeBron and his ignorance on this subject. So to balance that out and say, look, not all sports figures, just like not all actors, think the same way. We're not all brainwashed in the same way, and we're going to stand up for what's right, especially given the NBA, probably more than any other league, its infatuation with China and the ties that it has to China. It's about time somebody calls it out.
And it's not just financial too. I mean, his dad was in a Turkish prison. I mean, they could kill his family members. So it's not just he's losing money for the NBA. I mean, this is actually a really brave thing because he's put his family, he's put himself at risk by doing this.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to a more fun topic a little bit. And we want to talk about fast food here. For some reason, I don't quite understand why Representative Burchett is a big Crystal fan. I mean, I love getting 10 burgers for $8. I'm not going to argue with the cost of that. I like Old Country Buffet because I like quantity over quality. But what is outside of Crystal? I want to hear each of your favorite fast food places, and why it's your favorite fast food place. So Justin, we'll go with you first.
Probably Wendy's on a just typical basis. I'm a big fan of Wendy's, and I like their new fries. They've really stepped up their fry game over the last few years.
Have they changed the formula?
Yeah, probably about
Okay, I haven't had it recently. I mostly just get their burgers there, so that's good. I'll have to try that. So if you take Crystal out of the picture, Representative Burchett, what is your second favorite fast food place?
Well, just for the record, I am boycotting Kentucky Fried Chicken. You know, they had one of those 12-piece dinners one time, and you could get 2 things of mashed potatoes and gravy. And I don't eat mashed potatoes and gravy. And I said, can I substitute that for a coleslaw? And it was like a scene from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You know, guys, we'll have to check with the manager. And he says, is there a problem out here, sir? You know, the guy comes out there, and I said, no, I said, I just wanted to substitute coleslaw. I said, it's cheaper, but I'll pay the same price as I do for and he said, no, you can't do that. It's not on the special. And then the jack legs shorted me a piece of chicken. So
Wow.
I get on the internet, right? And I lodged my complaint, and and the website was a joke. I mean, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare, and I could not get through. And I finally got through and lodged my complaint. You know, never heard anything from Kentucky Fried Chicken, and that's been years. And I've mounted my boycott against them, and I'm sure I brought them to their corporate knees. But I'm not them like Walmart. I don't shop there. So
Popeyes has a good fried chicken too. You should check it out.
Who does?
Popeyes.
Yeah, I love that chicken from. I've never eaten at Popeyes. I've eaten at the other one. What's the other one that has the Cajun chicken? No, besides Popeyes. What's the other? Bojangles, as we call it. Bojangles. Bojangles, but we call it the Bojangles. But and I dig that. I'm not a Wendy's fan. You know, freaking McDonald's. Get your dadgum ice cream machines fixed. Good gosh, what a nightmare! I mean, that's embarrassing. I go in there.
I don't think they've had ice cream for about 12 years now. I think they just still leave it on the menu and then just, it's broken. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. We haven't got any ice cream. I go, what? Machine's broken. I go, oh, come on. And, and I get all their excuses, they don't want to clean it. I don't know. But dadgummit, if Baskin Robbins can put out 31 flavors, dadgummit, they ought to be able to get one right. So I don't know. I get a little ticked off at all of them. I just would rather not go to fast food. I got a bunch of local play outside of my Crystal, and I go there for sentimental reasons. Back when my parents were married, and they had 3 of us kids. I'm the youngest, and Mama, we would get Crystals at the end of the week because that's all basically about all the money they had, and they could afford to get everybody Crystals, and they could budget it. And so I'm kind of a sentimental favorite with Crystals, but I went to my Crystal there on Emory Road, and there's a sign up that said, after midnight, we're closed after midnight. I was like, that gum. I said, 3/4 of their business is some drunk loading up in here to get a sack of Crystals. Because I was always the driver. I'm not a drinker. I was a designated driver. Man, back in college, they'd go to Smoky Mountain Market. They'd give me a load of chili dogs because I'd drive one of those rich guys' nice cars over there so they wouldn't get a DUI. And and Crystal closing after midnight. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get
What's this world coming to?
Yeah. Taco Bell does that. They're out of business in a heartbeat. I think that you understand who your clientele is too. And especially with marijuana becoming legal across the country, Crystals, you got to stay open until 2 or 3. I mean, people are going to want pieces after that.
I would say so. And that extra, and just as long as you can get Doritos somewhere in a cold drink, I expect most of the weed smokers would be okay.
There you go.
Cheese on your pizza.
Well, I also get to feel like a jerk for making fun of Crystal now after that sentimental story. So we'll move on from that.
All right, dude.
So let's talk football. The college football playoff is coming up. I know that you are both Tennessee fans. We'll talk about them later. You got 2 SEC teams in the playoff. Who do you think wins it all? Do you think it's Georgia, Alabama? Do you think one of those other, kind of Midwestern teams sneaks it out?
Go ahead, Justin. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Georgia, Alabama. I mean, I don't want a repeat of that, although I'm an SEC fan. So I'm rooting for Georgia. I think Alabama might pull it off again. Not so much this year just because they're so much better than anybody else, but the other teams are not as great as, we don't have matchups like Clemson to play Alabama like we've had in the past.
Here's my gift certificate you get from Crystal. It's got like the little barcode on the back. It's a little.
Gosh, how old is that? Did you get that in the 80s?
I don't know. I know what it was. I tweeted one time about Crystal. It was after a ball game, and there's just a bunch of stoners in line at UT football game. My wife and I got home, sack of Crystals, and they were plain. No onions, no mustard, no pickles. I mean, and I was
That's a
like,
crime.
That's the way it should
what?
be.
What in the world is that? And I was like, no way. And then I tweeted about it. And then like 5 minutes later, their corporate people sent me a direct message and said, you know, we're going to make it right. What's your address? And they sent me that gift certificate, I guess, for my 10 crystals. I don't know. But what are we talking about? Football, Georgia?
Yeah, who's going to win the national championship?
Well, I think it's a known fact that Saban is probably, he's cut a deal with the devil. I'm pretty sure he has 3 6s in his Social Security card. So I would never cut Saban out just because of how evil he is. But I mean, Georgia's got the guns, and you know, and everybody knows Alabama cheats. So, you know, especially when they play Tennessee. So, you know, I'm okay with it either way. I don't get too fired up much about college or professional sports anymore. I tell people we're like the Romans, you know. You get the crap kicked out of you, you get hurt, you know, they'll be working down at the filling station or something. They're not going to follow through with a lot of those kids, and I get a little disgusted with it. I was back and forth on if we should pay them or not, or give them their cut, but they're making money and they ought to have something in the till. I just hope that they take a Dave Ramsey course to understand that money could run out pretty quick.
Absolutely. I'm going to go surprisingly on Michigan to win the national championship as well. So yeah, I think that both those SEC teams are not quite as good as they have been in past years. Michigan's a good football team. So Cincinnati's good too. They better watch out. So let's move on. This is the first time we're ever doing this game, and it's for Representative Burchett. So I'm going to leave a blank at the end of the sentence, and you fill it in with what it's a prediction. There's 4 questions. You fill it in with what you think the answer is. And Justin, we'll start with you on this one. The president on January 24th or 25th, 2025 will be President blank. Oof. Again, not who you want. It's who you're betting on. If you were to bet right now.
I'm going to go with DeSantis.
Oh, okay. What about yours? Who do you think? Again, prediction, doesn't matter who you want. It's 2025. Who's the president?
I would say today it'd be Trump.
President Trump, so both Republicans. Okay. This blank party will control the Senate in 2022. Justin.
Oh, yeah, Republican. Well, Senate, yeah, I think Republicans will take the Senate.
Okay.
Yeah, Republicans. But, you know, are we going to do anything with it? That's the question. Are we going to, you know, okay. I mean, these guys that are up here running this bunch up here now, I mean, they were in middle school with Moses. So, you know, we need to start thinking.
I think Bernie Sanders is older than Moses.
Yeah, I think he
is. So the Titans have a blank percentage chance of winning the Super Bowl. Justin?
15.
Wow. Okay.
If Derrick Henry comes back, I think
he's supposed to. Okay, Congressman Burchett?
Say about a 12.5%.
There you go. That's about in line with the Vegas odds, actually, right there, almost exactly. And then the last one, the final score of the taxpayer-funded Music City Bowl will be Tennessee, how many, and Purdue, how many? Justin, go ahead.
And I think the current over-under is like 63.
Yeah.
I'm going to go lower on that. I'm going to go Tennessee 30, Purdue 24.
Okay, close game. Go ahead, Congressman Burchett.
17-22, Tennessee.
Okay. I go 41-21 Purdue.
Blowout.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Tennessee, once the SEC season's over, they don't care as much. That's what I keep hearing. So Congressman Burchett, I want to talk a little bit about what you have done, and you did something really kind of inspirational and awesome that you don't see a lot of people who are public servants do, is that you gave out your cell phone number during COVID. Now, you were a federally elected official. You're on Twitter all the time. Everyone knows you. I mean, I don't know if everyone likes you, but everyone knows you. We like you. So what was the impetus between you giving out your cell phone number to people who are affected by COVID, and how did your constituents react to that?
Well, it was right when it all hit, and people started killing themselves. They were locked in and kind of, I mean, you know, there was a lot of misinformation out there about COVID, and there still is. I mean, it's a terrible thing, but, you know, the media yesterday I saw were people 65 and above that got 1 out of 100 dies. Well, they should have been 99% live, you know, but the media is just jacked up on destroying this country, and they're doing a pretty good job of it. You know, I started hearing about people killing themselves, and I've lost friends to suicide, and I'm a Christian. I'm not a very good one, but I pray about it and ask God what to do. And I just woke up in the middle of the night. I mean, just clear as a bell. And I said, I'm going to give out my cell phone number. And then I didn't run it by anybody, and I just did it. And, we got calls from all over the world, actually. Some people called just to see if I would answer the phone. And, the time zones are different. So 2 or 3 in the morning, the phone would ring, but people were, and we would get them in touch with, and I'm not bragging or anything, but I'm convinced that we saved people's lives. I mean, we literally had hundreds of phone calls, and it petered off after about a week or so of it, or maybe a little longer. But, every day I would just call people back, and if I could refer them to their congressperson or suicide hotline, or people were just depressed and wanted to talk, kids, and, were worried about what was going to happen. I remember one lady, I'm just afraid to go outside. And I said, ma'am, I said, is the sun shining where you're at? And she said, yeah. I said, why don't you just walk out and just walk to the mailbox and just kind of check it out? And, the birds were singing, and, and she called me back later and just said how, just stuff like that. I think people just needed to talk to somebody that actually cared. And like I said, I couldn't, I've lost friends to suicide, and I've often wondered, did I reach out enough to them? I didn't know they were depressed, or whatever. You just never know. And, and we referred people to my other congressmen were kind of scratching their head when they get a referral to me for somebody from New Jersey or something. But, and we got people in housing. We got just stuff that we do in my office, 2nd Congressional District. I think we did more than just about anybody in Congress did. We did combined in the state of Tennessee. I think we did just about it. I think we did a lot more just because of that outreach. And we do it. I've got excellent folks. So that's what that all was about. It wasn't, it wasn't any grandeur thing. And it didn't get many votes, that's for sure. But I felt like it was needed. And I wish more elected officials would remember who signs their checks, because it sure would make things a lot easier, a lot better for folks.
You've always been one of my favorite public servants, and I think I hate not having you in the state Senate anymore, but if we're going to send anybody to Washington to fight that battle, you're a good one to do it, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. I always tell people my number in baseball was 435 because I'm the 435th most powerful member of Congress. But I get my role. The system's broke up here. You got to raise money to go up in committee. Both parties do it. They literally issue you a bill. The press is in on it. They all know about it. If the NFL was Congress, Peyton Manning would still be a rookie, and we'd have a bunch of 85-year-old quarterbacks out there. Both parties, man. Both parties. It's wrong. We need to change it. We need, put the best player in, coach. I'm sick of it.
Absolutely. Well, we do appreciate that. I mean, I know a lot of Tennesseans appreciate that too. So the last question, let's kind of end on a lighthearted note. You're unbelievable on Twitter. I mean, you just kind of understand the media more than almost any politician, except maybe Trump, but you're funny. And you also engage with the other side in a much more, in a nice fashion. I mean, I saw you were talking with Gloria Johnson recently, who has, some problems with the truth herself, but it was good that you talked with her, and you often talk to other members of the opposing party in a fun and lighthearted way. I mean, do you think that could be part of the thing that could kind of bridge the divide between the parties, is just having conversations with them?
Yeah, Steve Cohen, I'm probably as close to him as I am to anybody. I mean, the guy called my mama when my daddy died. We've been buddies. I carried the speed limit bill when I was in the House and he was in the Senate. And the politics aside, it's just bizarre up here. People just literally hate people in both parties. They won't talk on the elevator, and I'm always cutting up. I just told Nancy Pelosi, I said that, my daughter and I were talking about her, and I said that, and I've got this dog who's like got a million, it just lives through everything. He's been hit by cars, got attacked by a bear, beat up and chewed up, and he lives. And Isabel said, if a meteorite hits the earth, cockroaches, Nancy Pelosi, and your dog Roscoe are going to survive. And I told Pelosi that, and she busted out laughing. And just not 30 minutes ago, and people were asking me, what'd you say to Pelosi? What were you saying about it? And I told them. They said, you told her that? And I said, why, yeah. I mean, what's she going to do? Come from San Francisco, California and work against me? And am I going to go to San Francisco and beat her? You know, I mean, get real. You know, the best thing I could ever have is her to come to
I was about to say,
work against me.
Against you would be the best thing you could have.
I'd be an instant fundraiser, you know. But maybe I could work something out with her to do that. But no, but you know, I just refuse to get caught up in that. You get better and you might as well go home. I hear these guys on both parties, guys and gals, and they just hate each other. And it's just, man, life's too freaking short. If this is the peak of your life, you need to get a family and figure out what you're doing with your life, because this is not, I mean, it's a huge honor. More people have played professional baseball than have been in the United States Congress. And it's a huge honor, but people just get their priorities out of whack. And I always joke around about these guys that I came to Congress with. They all puffed up and they thought Trump was going to call them the first day to, you know, negotiate a trade deal with North Korea or something. And it's just not the case, man. You know, it's just not the case. And there's a system in place and it's broken and we got to fix it.
Well, the better question is, did your friend Steve Cohen try to convert you to KFC? I know that he's a big KFC fan. Did he try to bring you back in the fold?
Yeah, I saw that. He was eating cold chicken. I mean, Cohen's jokes fall flat. You know, he's got this intellect level and liberal thing going, and you know, and I've tried to work with him, man. I fixed his Cadillac the other day. He couldn't get it started, and he asked me if I could come down to the garage, and I got it started for him. And you know, and the battery cables were corroded, and I got a Coca-Cola and cleaned them off, and I showed him what was wrong with it, and he went to the garage and I went to his mechanic. The mechanic told him, sure enough, I fixed his car. I was right. So anyway, but yeah, he's an old buddy, and I just refuse to hate folks like that. I hate the evil dictators and child molesters and pimps and people like that in the world, and people that abuse people. But the rest of the world, I'll try to get along with.
Which I think is what most people are. I mean, we're friends with our Democrats, you know, we're friends with Republicans. I mean, I think most people in normal life are, and you see Washington, it's good to know that some of you are actually friends, even though you disagree on the floor. So
it's like I told them, I said, look, I forgive you guys. We can get along. Okay. I forgive y'all for being wrong.
That's awesome. Well, that is all we have. We really, really appreciate your time. I know that you're very busy. You actually had to postpone a little because you actually were voting on the House floor. So I
didn't realize y'all do that anymore.
Yeah, well, it's all by proxy, and I refuse to do that. You know, I had heart surgery, and I missed one day, I think, and I had a guy help me get on the floor, and I just sat there for 3 hours to vote because, you know, it's just it's ridiculous. Only thing you're supposed to be is COVID illness, and these cats are voting. You know, we're in these Zoom meetings, and they're on a houseboat, or you know, you're hearing seagulls, you can hear glasses tinkling in the background, you know, with ice in it. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just that you're going to have, if they keep this up, mark my words, you will have dead people up here in Congress voting because their family's still getting the check, and nobody will know the difference through proxy.
They can do a weekend at Bernie type things with you. If you ever pass away in Congress, they could put you and you can vote with a weekend with a wheelchair and the sunglasses on.
That's true. That's true. Or you can just move to Chicago and continue voting.
Well, we really do appreciate your time. I know that you're very busy, so spending a couple of minutes with us was great, and we look forward to everything you do. And thank you for all your work. We really do.
Thank you. I'm on Twitter at Tim Burchett, TimBurchett.
And we're going to tweet at KSC to make sure that they take care. We need to get this right, this injustice righted. So we're going to make sure KSC does something right to help you.
Yeah, I know it, man. I'm still carrying a grudge. I know I talked about forgiveness, but that's just. When you're hungry, you're looking for that last chicken leg. It's not there, dude. It kind of hurts you. I counted the bones when I was finished. I counted the bones, and I mean, I went back over it multiple times.
Oh, there's nothing worse than missing a chicken. That's right.
Nothing worse.
Thank you for your time, and we will be back with another episode of Over-Caffeinated next month. And thanks again, Congressman Burchett. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Justin. See you guys.